This video is going to be very different from my usual style. I have been experiencing ongoing technological difficulties with my video editing software, which is making it very difficult and time-consuming to create a video on this project with the same format as my usual content, with the same level of quality that I hold myself to. But I am well past my own deadline for getting any video published, let alone one that was supposed to be in conjunction with my co-collaborator. So at this point, I just want to get the final product out for you, my viewers. I may do a longer, more in-depth video about how I made my tea gown in the future, once my editing issues are solved. Okay, so here's the deal. Months ago, Amber and I had talked about how we were each planning to make a tea gown from this book, and we decided to make them at the same time and do a fun dress-up video chat for the reveal. Amber's two videos, one about making the tea gown and one with our Edwardian Zoom call, are both linked in the description. My biggest hurdle to making this project was actually picking out my fabric. I had expected the drafting part to be difficult, but it wasn't. Just time-consuming. The most important thing was to make sure I was using the correct ruler. I copied off the one for my bust size, which is what the pattern called for. The tea gown is loose-fitting at the waist and hips, so the bust measure is really what's important. But back to the fabric. I knew I wanted my tea gown to feel decadent and luxurious, and look opulent. So I wasn't going to make it out of old sheets, even though I have them in abundance. I would have loved a velvet tea gown, like Amber's, but I did not have nearly enough of any of my velvets or velveteens. Oh, and I didn't want to buy any new fabric. Silk would be good, and I have a fair amount of silk in my stash, but none of these felt like the right vibe for Edwardian, and some of them are reserved for different projects anyway. So I turned to my collection of saris. Some of these have other uses already planned, and some are just wrong for this project because of the directional designs. But this gorgeous bright fuchsia one was just right. Since the main body was solid pink, it wouldn't matter which way I laid out the pattern pieces. And I was able to use the borders along the selvage edges for the ruffle that is pictured in the book, even though it's not patterned. I wanted the ruffle because I liked it, but it turns out I also needed it because I could only fit all of my pieces on the silk if I cut off the bottom 8 inches or so of each pattern piece. I used the decorative palu end of the sari for the cute bolero jacket, which I think helps balance the ruffle at the bottom. I had to draft my own back piece, since this is not included in the book, but it was easy enough. And I used the negative space cut out from the armholes of the jacket to make fancy patch pockets, because I can't throw anything away. I tried on the robe and decided it needed to be flat-lined before I could continue. I used an old sheet for the lining, and it was definitely the right call, even though it took a lot of extra time to unpick all my stitching, open and press all the hems on the sheet, cut out the lining, baste the layers together, trim the excess to true up the seam allowances, and sew it all back together. The end result was a much more sturdy garment with more stable seams, and an even better drape to the skirt. Not to mention a stronger base to sew the patch pockets onto. I used some ivory silk charmeuse from my stash for the full front and long sleeves, which give the impression that the tea gown is actually 2 pieces, a robe worn over a nightgownish dress, but in fact it is all one garment with a fitted bodice lining under the loose gathered front. I did choose to keep the bolero jacket as a separate piece, mostly because the arm size of the jacket and the robe did not match up. So I attached the short puff sleeves to the jacket and the long charmeuse sleeves to the robe. My ruffle ended up being not long enough to cover the portion of the skirt that was just my cotton lining fabric, so I added a band of gold silk shantung, scraps left over from my 18th century Fanciest gown. I just folded it in half so I didn't have to hem it, and I covered the seam with burgundy velvet ribbon. This ribbon really brought it all together for me. It both pulls out the darker thread color in the border design and camouflages the fact that both the pink silk and the gold band are heavily pieced. Because the ribbon is in one long piece, it makes it look like the ruffle is in one long piece. Overall, I am very happy with my finished tea gown. It feels amazing to wear, which is what I was going for, and it also looks spectacular. I do want to make some minor adjustments to it eventually. I want to lengthen sleeves, which I think I can do by adding a taller sleeve head to the top. It will be covered by the puff sleeves on the jacket, so I'm not worried about a seam showing. And I also want to cut down the top of the front to make a gently curved neckline. But the main gown came out even better than my original vision, and I love it. If you love it too, please feel free to give this video a like, and if you want to see more, definitely subscribe. And don't forget to check out Amber's videos and channel, linked below. Bye!